On this episode, we're going to review some recent events that started early this month of April. The first one's going to be Oz Academy with Big Battle Bonus in Korakuen that took place on the 3rd of April. But also on the 3rd of April, we have, of course, Pro Wrestling Noah with Real Overture, where we only had one championship match, but this one was a bit of federal to one of the referees who's been in the business for far too long. And of course, we cannot forget New Japan Strong with Strong Style Evolve, where we have once again the US of J Open Challenge taking place. But however, it looks like there is a conflicted matter coming with Hikuleo, who is the youngest brother of both Tama and Tonga Loa. So let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to the Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J. Right here. So let's begin with Oz Academy with Big Battle Bonus in Korakuen. This is one of their events that just recently came out. We have about 5 matches, 3 championship matches. One in particular was a vacate championship, but we'll get to that. First match, we have 6 women tag team match, or trios as we call it. We have Sonoko Kato teaming up with Homoka Hanazono, and of course the Big Apple. Make sure you have to take on Yu, Tsubasa Kuragaki, and of course the legend Aja Kong. Now this, you probably would say, is a fierce battle. The reason I say this is why. Yu is a big individual. So is Aja Kong. She's like a legend. And of course there's Kuragaki. She is the most deadliest of them all. So that kind of fits in. You look at the other team. They have a bit of a bubbly personality that kind of fits in. But you probably say, how could these girls beat these women? Simple. It's more like the David versus Goliath scenario. That always helps. But however, somehow they managed to. It was in fact Kato who actually pinned you for this particular match. Everybody made a pinfall on the big individual to win, which was an upset. You can tell by the look of Aja Kong, she will not let that stand. But if I was the winners, I watch my back. Next match we have is tag team action. We got Kakeru Sekiguchi and Rina Amikura taking on Ram Kaicho and Izuki Aiko. Now, as you know, this was a pretty interesting matchup because, I seen Ram Kaicho and Aoki, how they are both different. They have like similar, aggressiveness. However, Sekiguchi and Amikura, they're both two of the most impressive wrestlers coming from their respective promotions. Um, it was, in fact, Sekiguchi who picked up the victory when she pinned Aoki. It was a pretty good match. Really fun. Enjoy. Now, our next match is a championship match. This one is for the vacant Oz Academy Pioneer Championship. Now, I don't know too much of the whole thing, but from my understanding, I don't know how long it's been vacant. So it became a 3-way match. Here's up the competitors. We got Yumi Oka, who is in fact part of the Ozaki Gun, taking on Coyote Yonayama, legend in the Ryoshi world, and of course, Masdo Hanahana. So basically, this is a very interesting matchup. Now, if you know this, Oka, in fact, she's a member of the villain faction known as Ozaki Gun, but you know that she's going to cheat in this particular match. However, I was a bit surprised that it was Masdo Hanahana. The reason why is because I would have thought, in my honest opinion, it would have been Oka or Yonayama to pick up the victory. But no, it did not go in that fashion. It was, of course, Master Hanahana who pinned Yonayama in order to win the match. Now, if I was Master Hanahana, I would be more concerned whoever be coming. I hate to be one member of Ozaki-gun that would challenge for that title. Now, our next match is another championship match. This is for the Os Academy tag team titles. We have, of course, the challengers, Ozaki-gun's Sayuri Onoa and Mayumi Ozaki, taking on the champs, Rina Yamashita, and of course the Destroyer, Hiroyo Matsumoto. Now, as you know, I mentioned this before, Ozaki-gun, they are the most dangerous villain faction in Oz Academy. You probably would say they probably would cheat. They used every weapon. But however, in this particular match, Ozaki made a misfired when she missed Sayori Onoi, and apparently she had no clue. But however, it was Rina Yamashita who picked up the victory by power bombing Ozaki, retaining the titles. Now, our main event is the Oz Academy Openweight Championship. We have the former champion Akino taking on the person that beat her for the title. We're talking about Maya Yohiki. Now, as I mentioned, Maya Yohiki, in fact, is a member of Ozaki Gun. Now, I always mention this. There's always the ways they're going to cheat. That happens. Basically, you got the other members of Ozaki Gun ensuring that the title remains in Ozaki Gun. That's the whole point. Even though they have fought each other for this title. But in this case, they cannot afford to have Aquino win the title because the history is Aquino beat Mayozaki for this particular title last year. And now, later on in that very same year, it was Mayuhiki who beat her for that title. But this time, now it's the roles reversed. But every share shot, every trick that Ozaki Gun tried to ensure to win, and I'm lucky that that retarded police officer wasn't there, the one who's bribed by Ozaki Gun to win wasn't there. I don't know what happened to him. I hope he was injured. But somehow Aquino was able to pull a victory by submission on Mayohiki. And this was the most impressive match ever. So I don't know how many times Aquino has become the openweight champion, but it was a really good one. So I think this show was pretty amazing. I enjoyed it, a lot. Because whenever there's Ozaki Gun, you know they're going to win this match. But for now, hopefully we get another Oz Academy show and I can review that. At this moment, let's move on with Pro Wrestling Noah. Alrighty, so right now got Pro Wrestling Noah with Real Overture that took place on the 3rd of April. The first match we have Kinya Okada and Yoshiki Inamura taking on Funky Express, Mohamed Yone, and King Tani, two of the veterans taking on the youngerlings. Now you can tell. Now much of this match I was impressed with Okada because he is still on the learning curve as a young boy, but unfortunately he got pinned by, of course, King Tani that allowed him to win the match. So it's okay for the young boy to lose, but it will be a good learning curve for him to figure out what mistakes he made. Next match, we have a very interesting matchup, a bit of an exhibition. First thing, we got Kai Fujimura teaming up with, of course, a member of the Noah Junior Army, Alejandro, formerly known as Aleja, who was once a member of Congo until he defected, taking on his other friends and members of the Noah Junior Army. We got Junta Kiyamiya and, of course, Daisuke Arada. Now, the one thing that was interesting is the way it started, where Junta decided to be the first one to come out because apparently Kai Fujimura was there too. They both were in the same predicament. They were both young boys. Well, Fujimura still is, but it was a pretty good exhibition for the junior heavyweight division in Noah to display who is the best. But unfortunately, it was Miyawaki who picked up the victory by doing a somewhat version of the Falcon Arrow onto Fujimura to win the match. Next up, this feud has gone far enough for who knows how long. We got Stinger versus Los Perros de Manjapon. For the Stinger side, we have, of course, young boy Yatsutaka Yano, along with the members of Stinger, Yoshimura, Ogawa, Yuya Suzumu, and Hayata. So Seki Yoshioka wasn't there. Taking on from the Los Pedros, we have Kotaro Suzuki, Nosawa Rongai, and Super Crazy, and the JC Junior Heavyweight Champion Eita. Now, Eita is rubbing this in their faces to Stinger. Keep in mind, Stinger and Los Perros have been at war with each other, trying to prove who is the best in the in the junior in the junior heavyweight division in Noah. But however, in this particular, everything went out of control. Ref lost control. It ended up in a double countout outside the ring. However, they came up with an incentive to have one representing from Los Perros, one representing Stinger. For Stinger, we had, of course, Yuya Suzumu, and as for Los Perros, we have Kotaro Suzuki. I have to say, Suzuki did a pretty good job trying to put Hayata in a submission. However, once again, it ended up in a double pinfall, another draw, so it was crazy. So basically, the feud between Los Perros and Stinger rages on. Now, our next match, we have trios action. We got How of the Noah Junior Regular Army, Mazaki Mochizuki of the M's Alliance, and of course Masato Tanaka taking on the members of Congo, Neo, Katsuhiko Nakajima, and Keno. Now, in this particular match, it was interesting because How and Neo used to be close, but Neo still has some unresolved issues towards How, and that kind of tells the story because How defected from Congo, and Congo will not take that kindly of him turning their backs on his brethren. But it was Neo who picked up the victory by pinning House, sending a direct message to him saying he's coming from, he's going to destroy him for turning his back on Congo. Next match we have is the GHC Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles. We have members of Congo, Hajime Ohara and Tadatsuke, taking on the members of Noah Junior Regular Army, Yohei and Atsushi Kotoge. Now, here's the history of this. Hajime used to be friends with Yohei and Kotoge on many occasions. Here's what happened. Last year, Hajime and Yohei used to, and of course Kotoge, they used to be members of the Full Throttle until it ended up with three. When Seki Yoshioka turned his back on Full Throttle, Yohei was suckered in by Ron Guy to join Los Perros, which had happened. But Hajime was heartbroken. Kotoge, one time a friend of his, decided to help him to get back on his feet to make Noah's the Noah Juniors the best division that the world needs to see. And ever since then, they've been gaining new members. However, early this year, Yohei was betrayed by the Los Perros and Mad because there was a misfire between both him and Rongai. And Rongai kicked him out. So they were beating him senselessly, but out of nowhere, for whatever reason, Kotoge comes out and rescues Yohei, and apparently he asked to join the Noah Junior Army. However, everybody, with the exception of Hajime Ohara, did not kindly. The reason is Ohara felt you cannot trust Yohei. Yohei has turned his back on many people whenever they turn their backs on him. Basically, that's like a pattern. So he's telling Kotoge and Arada, don't trust him. However, Hajime made the decision to defect as well because he did not appreciate that they picked him. And not only that, Kotoge chosen Yohei to be his tag partner for these titles, which it happened. They defeated Stinger for these titles, and now we come in full circle with Hajime and Tadasuke trying to obtain these titles. Now, the the members of the junior division of Congo has been trying to get their hands on these titles with no luck. But I have to say it was a pretty good match. But it was, of course, Yohei who pinned Tadasuke with like a smaller version of Meteora on him to pick up the victory. And was a very good, impressive win. But however, the leader of Stinger, someone from both Kotoge and Yohei's past, has come back. If you guys know this or not, Kotoge and Yohei were once members of Stinger. Stinger kicked out Kotoge, and also the same thing with Yohei. And that kind of tells the story. Now, our main event features the last referee match of what's his name again? Fukuda. But this time we have members from wrestlers from different groups. We have, of course, Daiki Naba, Masaki Amiya, and Kaito Kiyomiya to take on Go Shiozaki, Naomichi Marufuji, and of course Takashi Sugiura. Now this match was a pretty good one, a very powerhouse match, but it was uh, Shiozaki who picked up the victory when he pinned Ina, was Inaba for the victory. And of course, they had that little ceremony for the referee, for Fukada, and it was like a very nice, memorable one. So it's almost similar to what they did with Tiger Hitori, but not as better, like good as they did, but it was good. So I think that's pretty much it. What we got with Pro Wrestling Noah. Let's move on with New Japan Strong, Strong Style Evolved. Okay, last review for this episode. We have New Japan Strong with Strong Style Evolved. I think this is day 2 from it. Opening match, we have Andy Brown versus Hikuleo. Now, if those who are not familiarized with Andy Brown, I have seen this guy before wrestled here locally in San Diego. He even wrestled in other promotions like Championship Wrestling in from Hollywood and many others, even including Memphis. But I was a bit surprised. I haven't seen Andy Brown for almost 2 years. One time I interacted with him when we flip each other off, trying to joke around with each other. But the match with him and Hikuleo was kind of like Battle of the Behemoths, but however, it was Hikuleo who picked up the victory during when he chokeslammed Andy Brown for 1, 2, 3. Good night, Andy Brown. But however, before the start of the match, Hikuleo is still confused over the situation that took place with his brothers. But the real question is, what is he gonna do? Next up, we got a very interesting matchup. We got Josh Alexander, the walking weapon, taking on the Alpha Wolf, Carl Fredericks. I thought this match was unbelievably good. They're almost similar with each other, but the only difference is Josh Alexander is a master technician. You know, when he put you in an ankle lock, you know it's over. And that kind of plays that out. But however, it was the Seymour spike to seal the deal for Carl Fredericks. And Josh Alexander won with the pinfall 1, 2, 3. But in the end, Josh Alexander gained respect from Carl Fredericks. But however, that does not end right there. As soon as Josh Alexander walked out and left, leaving Carl Fredrickson to take the standing ovation from the fans, he was surprised. There was a surprise visit by the factory from AEW, consistent of QT Marshall, Aaron Solo, and of course Nick Camarado. The reason they're there, they decided to disrespect the LA Dojo and Shibata, saying that it's ridiculous that they put him that believing that he would have been better off signing with the factory. However, Fredericks will not tolerate the fact that QT Marshall disrespected the LA Dojo and the master Shibata. But this became a beatdown between a 3-on-1. However, other members of the LA Dojo, the Young Lions, Yuya Umura, and Clark Connors come around to the rescue. But Carl Fredericks made up a match for Windy City Riot is going to be, of course, the LA Dojo consisted of himself, Umrah, and Connors to take on the factory, a trios match, and of course, QT accepted. Next match, we have Daniel Garcia and Fred Yehi taking on um, No Days Off, Fred Rouster, and of course, Eddie Kingston. Now, keep in mind, Kingston still has issues towards Daniel Garcia since he joined Chris Jericho's fan of the Jericho appreciation and all this other stuff. So it's been going on for that. But basically, you can see there was like a focus with, of course, Kingston towards Daniel Garcia, but it was Fred Rosser to pick up the victory when he power bombed Fred Yehi, and it was over right from there. But the feud between Garcia and Kingston still rages on. Now, our main event, we have the US of J Open Challenge, Chris Sabin versus that Jay White. However, last time with the multi match, it ended with Chris Sabin to win. But will Chris Sabin bring the same luck? Well, the answer to that, it did not. Basically, Jay White countered every move that Sabin can put on, allowing himself to put the Blade Runner onto him, and it was over from there. However, he said he had Bullet Club business to attend to, and that business led to, of course, Hikuleo. Hikuleo, on the other hand, is still conflicted what Jay White did. Now, Jay White told him that his brothers have reached their expiration date, but he sees a bright future for Hikuleo. Now, Hikuleo can see this happening. Now, if you guys don't understand what's going on, is this: Hikuleo, on one hand, he does have a bright future, and he can have all the money in the world, what he can do with it. However, there's the bloodline with him and his brothers, Tamatonga and Tangaloa, so it's more conflicted. But he did challenge for Jay White for the leadership. If Hikuleo wins, there is a chance maybe Hikuleo can bring back his brothers, but we'll see about that. That's going to be one heck of a match. We definitely need to see. That's going to take place on Mutiny, which I'm looking forward to it. So I think that's pretty much it what we got. So I think it's time for me to call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. I know I got many viewers who enjoy when I review Oz Academy because you asked me. Now, those who ask me, where can I watch it? Go to watchprowrestling.live. You will be able to see it from there. Same thing with other Yoshi promotions you might like. But, however, for the next episode, we got DDT Pro Wrestling with April Fool Tour in Yokohama that took place on the 1st of April. And then we got Tokyo Yoshi Pro with Spring Tour 2022. As you know, we're getting closer and closer to the graduation of Marika Kobashi, who is graduating from Tokyo Yoshi Pro but not retiring. And then, of course, we got more on Pro Wrestling Noah with more on the Real Overture that took place on the 8th of April. And then, of course, we're going to end it with GCW Paranoid. But if you guys noticed, I got DDT, Tokyo Yoshi Pro, and Pro Wrestling Noah with, of course, I like to call it the Cyber Fight Edition. That's kind of interesting. So if you guys don't know that, then look it up. But for now, I'll see you guys in next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day. Bang.